welcome back to our podcast that we now have actually come up with a name for, which is Some Parts Not Included. My name is Amanda, and I am a right leg above the knee amputee.
I'm Jamie, and I'm a right arm below the elbow amputee.
And I am James, a left arm below the elbow amputee. It gets very confusing when everyone has different missing parts.
I honestly don't really remember sometimes what you guys have and don't have.
Who's right and who's left?
I don't remember left and right for you, which brings up a really good question. That segue almost felt intentional. How do you, both of you, figure out like what's your left from right?
It was
just
easy,
in general. I think it's easy for us.
Yeah,
and I think we're all the same.
I think that it's weird for normies, as I call them, so people who have all of their limbs, because like there's no difference. You know, but for us, it's like, oh, it's my right arm, so that's my right side, and this is left.
That's exact. I was like, I obviously use what leg I do and do not have. Like I have my left leg, I'm missing my right. So when people are like, go left or right, I always think of like which limb I have.
Me too. It's so weird.
I thought that was like kind of a given for us, but then like, what do other people do?
Wow, I honestly,
what do you
for
do?
some reason, this question, when people ask me this question, it bugs me for some reason. I've always got this question my whole life. People ask like, oh, were you born left-handed? Like, I'm missing my left arm, okay, and then they're asking me, were you born left-handed? And I'm like, the thing is, like, how can you even answer that? Like, I don't know. I guess maybe I could have been, but like I literally had no choice but to be right-handed. So I think that if you're born a congenital amputee, your brain will program you to use the hand that you have. You know what I mean? Like,
so yeah, I have to add to that actually. Point. When I was learning to write, my parents said that I struggled a lot. And that my writing was not very great, and that also my fine motor movements were not great as well on that side. And they always noticed that when I was really young, I always reached with the right arm, even though I didn't have it. So they do believe that I probably was meant to be right-handed, but I didn't have a choice, right? And so I think that you're right. Like, I think that it automatically does just kind of fix itself. But sometimes I think like it takes a little bit of work, like a little bit of extra work to kind of fix that. Cause I didn't have a choice, right? I had to be left-handed, but yeah, I think that it might've been maybe a little bit tougher because I was supposed to be right. I have no idea though, for sure. I don't think that you can ever really know for sure. Could you?
I wonder if there's like, some kind of expert in this field of left and right handedness that would be able to like come in on the podcast and like, by the way, like this is actually what's going like tell us exactly how kind of and
why. So like James, you just feel like it was natural for you, like you don't feel that you had those same challenges that
I think it was natural. I was just naturally right-handed, and like I can't even imagine using a left hand because I never had one. So it's like going back to almost like our dream topic, where it was like in our dreams, can you have a left hand? Can you use the left hand? I couldn't, because I've never even known what it's like to have a left hand. So even in my dreams, I can't even. If I had a left hand, I wouldn't know how to function it. So it's so weird. Yeah. I have. Who knows? How the human body is just a really unique, crazy thing, isn't it?
I completely agree, and although I have both my hands, I actually find it affects me as well. So I'm missing my right leg, which my body then often has to lead with my left side when I'm like walking or taking a step or doing certain things. And I really rely heavily on my left side, which has made it a dominant with my hand often as well. So where some people do things with their right hand, I'll end like I write with my right hand, but then I do a lot of tasks with my left hand, and people will call me out on it. And I'm like, I truly believe it's just because my brain has had to like readjust. Like, yeah, maybe it was supposed to be right, but because my body was like, your left side's your dominant, stronger side, then it naturally just started doing everything that way. So I don't know. It's weird because I don't really call myself ambidextrous because like I can't find motor like right with both my hands. But yeah, I don't know. I do think it is from that, and it just brains are interesting, weird little creatures.
Like, I actually prefer to carry a lot of bags on the right side and not on the left, even though I have all of, the appropriate muscles. The stronger area of my body is the left side. But I always choose to put things on the right side. And I mean, I've kind of I always thought it was because I could save myself easier if I were to fall with the left side. And my parents, I guess, always scared me with that when I was growing up. You could fall. You can't save yourself if you fall. Anyway, so I always put stuff on my right side, just so in that way, like, I have that left hand free. I don't know why I do it, but I always prefer the right side. It's really interesting.
No, same. Actually, my purse, I literally, although I'm missing my right leg and I lean that way, like you'd think you'd want to weigh it the other way, but I'm like, no, I want extra swag.
Interesting.
I don't understand, but it does feel strange. I don't know. Again, like, it's just weird how the body like compensate. I guess it's like our bodies are compensating so heavily for something that's missing that we don't even really realize sometimes, because it's just, especially when we're born with. It'd be interesting to have one of our friends who's lost a limb come on and kind of speak to this actually as well.
Oh, you mean someone who lost their limb after birth? So
yeah.
Here's a question, like, is it better to be born without a limb? Like,
I could not be an amputee. Like a new
lose it later in life.
Yeah. So I've actually had this conversation before. So going back, I had some neuromas, like some tumors on my stump. And at the time when we were doing like a bunch of testing and they didn't know what it was, at one point there was a conversation about it being bone cancer, and they had discussed that I would have to amputate more of my stump off. And like, I don't have a lot left there to begin with, and like, I don't know what that looks like I only have a tibia bone. So if you took all that and I don't have a hip joint, like, I don't know, there's not a lot happening. You know what I'm saying? It's going to make walking extremely difficult. So I don't want to say I panicked, but I had one of those like moments where I was like, I remember having a discussion with my mom and I started crying and I'm like, I don't know how to be an amputee. Like, I don't know how to lose a limb. And she starts like laughing. I'm like, but like, this is all I know. To lose it later on would be such a drastic change, in my opinion. And I think that it would be a different situation than what we dealt with, right? Like, I do think we would see different challenges. I don't know. I think we've learned a lot to be able to adapt, and it would be different. It would be a lot more further ahead, or handle it in a lot more positive way or a more experienced way than someone who had all four and then lost it, right? Like, if we're comparing, but
we are comparing,
which is exactly what we're doing right now.
And you know what? No, I think I know the answer to this question. I feel like I do know the answer to the question. It's definitely, you're better off born without a limb, because you grow up knowing what it's like, and you never know what it's like to have those limbs. So, and like, you know, through my line of work, having worked with amputees all my life, like I know that I've dealt with many adult amputees that it's hard to cope. Even children who lose limbs bounce back way faster than adult amputees. Think about all the weight of the, like, being an adult, like trying to, you know, you've lived your life with 2 arms or 2 legs, and you're trying to, you know, work a job and like keep your family up and like keep your house up, and then all of a sudden you lose the limb too on top of it, and you have to now relearn how to. You might have a job too where you use your arms or you use your legs a lot, right? So it's like, so you got the weight of the world and all the other problems with the world on your shoulders, being an adult and adulting, and then having to deal with amputation. It gets really tough on some individuals, that's for sure.
Definitely.
That's my take on it, at least. And I think having worked with so many amputees, yeah.
Jamie, do you feel like you'd panic? What I feel?
I don't know if I would panic. I have a lot of support, like even within my personal life, like my family, who have lost limbs later in life. And even though they were like, they lost limbs and their jobs really depended on their ability to physically do like physical manual labor and things like that. So, like I definitely have watched people struggle that way, but at the same time, like I don't think I would panic just because I have people who I've watched to go through that, and the thing that really helped them was they didn't panic. And they kind of just pushed forward and they just kind of figured it out. I think it would suck. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that it is much easier to be born without an arm or a limb than it is to lose it later in life. Again, watching both my dad partial hand and my grandfather arm and leg amputee, I can't imagine. But yeah, it's, and both farmers, and so like I can't imagine. So it's but at the same time, like I feel like I'd figure it out. I hope.
Yeah, well, I believe all in us would be like, I think if anything,
I didn't know the question was. I
have another question.
Being amputees who were born with already born missing limb, and then having to one of us lose another limb later in life, like that's a whole different story. I think that we would all be kind of like super nervous, but like we would have that experience being an amputee at least. So we're like, oh, well, we know we have like a great support system, and like how many friends do we have now that are amputees, you know, growing up getting to, you know, meet so many amputees across the country and like our province and stuff. Like it's pretty amazing, right? The support system there. So
yeah, we definitely already have like a leg up that way. So.
That needs to be a leg up.
Yeah.
I mean, like if I lost a leg, I'd definitely be like beep boop beep boop beep boop beep. Amanda?
Totally. Actually, for sure. I would be thinking of like who are my closest arm amputee friends, which is immediately you. But I also find, and like maybe this is not a true statistic at all, and maybe it was just for like the time period and a really long hair there. For the time period that I was surrounded by other amputees, like my generation, but are there more arm amputees than leg amputees? Because maybe it's just because I had like the rarest leg amputation. I always feel like there was like less whenever I was in a crowd. Maybe it's just you guys. You guys are giving me like FOMO.
No.
I'm not missing an arm. I'm a loser.
We can set up like Dexter style. We can set up a Dexter style lab if you'd like, and and make you one of us.
We're less unique than you, Amanda. There's more of us than there are you, I think. Like when it comes to, well, maybe I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I like that could just
PFFD,
be like my
right?
perspective.
You're like, what do you call it? PFFD, or that was the cause of your amputation at birth?
Yeah.
It's we all say PFFD, and we all know what that means, being, you know, people that are amputees in the amputee community, but and I don't even know how to pronounce the actual. Do you?
Proximal femoral focal deficiency, and I have type D.
I always get it back. I always like mix up things when I go to do that, but
I understand. I didn't know how to say it until I don't know. I
you know what?
Until like grade like 2, and I think or something like that. I was doing like you have to do speeches in elementary school, and I gave a speech about being an amputee, and I learned so much about myself. I had no idea. It was the most craziest thing. Yeah, so I had to learn it like during that time or whatever. And my mom practiced. My mom knew all of my medical stuff. Like I literally always like mixed up what surgery was what and how old I was. And but going back, I wanted to ask a question to what we were just talking about super quick. If you were to lose a limb, knock on wood, like pick a limb, what are you losing?
My left.
Well, this arm is so shot now. I might as well just get 2 bionic hands, man. Like,
no.
What year is it? It's almost 2030. Like, come on, man. Let's go with the full-on bionic hands. Like,
really, James? You would go armless?
No, I would go with a leg. I would go with a leg.
I knew it. I can call you out.
Yeah, because hands are too hard to recreate, man. That's why. Hands are so hard. There's so much that go into this.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to feet, like, and toes too, the same thing with balance and stuff, but it's just a little bit less harder to recreate. Like, as I would choose below knee if I had a choice, though. Like, I prefer that than being above knee just for mobility and stuff. And Amanda, I'm sure you could totally attest to that. Like,
you know what? 100%. Like, I get jealous of below knee amputees.
Sons of bitches, eh? Even a backwards foot wouldn't be so bad, eh? You're probably looking at the Van Ness
I know. I didn't have any ankle movement in my foot at birth. So I was born with a small foot, but there was no ankle movement.
Yeah,
so
there's...
chopped it off. Yeah.
And you know the thing about PFFD is that there's actually a lot of them out there, but they're all so different.
Yeah.
And then arm amputees that are congenital arm amputees, like below the elbow, like Jamie and I, they're so similar. Most of them are, like, our nubs are all different looking, but they're technically, it's a similar type of amputation. It's like your arm is just kind of cut off there. With the feet, there's all different, PFFD, there's all different variations of, bones that didn't grow and grew and didn't grow, and, like, feet and...
Yeah. And like, they kind of do it in a type class, I learned, as I got older. So, like, A would be, like, the one that least affects you, and going down to D, and I do think D is the most severe unless I'm outdated knowledge-wise, which is very likely, but from what I know, I think type D is, like, the most severe because I don't have any joints, and I only have one bone, and there was no, like, it wasn't even attached. It was just, like, hanging out. So, I think that I
would agree with that. Like, it's not great to not have joints. I have to say, you need those.
Jamie, did you say what you would want to miss?
Yeah, left leg below the knee.
I think I would go with the same left leg below the knee, and that's only because my stupid left ankle sucks right now, and that's the only reason. And that's why I was saying, like, I might just lop it off anyway. No, I'm kidding. Actually, it's just it hurts. It's got like there's a lumpy thing. Lumps are never good. But I mean, I play hockey. Everything seems okay, but I've been skateboarding, like longboarding, for years and years, and I push with that foot. So, when we were talking about being ambidextrous earlier, about using your right and left arm, I was like, well, can it be the same with right and left foot? Because technically I can switch back and forth. When I skateboard, I can push with my left foot or I can push with my right foot. And according to other people that skateboard, that's really rare to do that. I don't know if that has something to do with missing my arm, being left-handed, and then having to learn to use my right hand. Maybe that's what happened to me, and then because of that, I was able to use both. I don't know. Probably
I kind of feel that's a similar thing to me, because, like, it just, like, reversing which limbs we're talking about.
But honestly, there are so many cool, sweet legs you can get out there. Like, get that one like with the running foot, like or some crazy.
I don't think I'd be able to keep up with the running foot like the rest of my body. I feel it would. I've already got 16 concussions. I feel we're good.
Yeah.
Amanda, what limb did you choose that you would, if you
can I choose the rest of my right leg?
No.
Is that allowed, or is that cheating?
That's cheating. Don't you know the rules to this game?
That I made up.
What
that I asked.
Rules?
Okay, then I'll say left hand.
Okay.
Of course, you gotta go with a hand, right?
Specifically, but you do you.
I know, same here. But honestly, the only reason I say that, if you had asked me this pre-car accident, I would have said maybe like right. But my left, my left rotator cuff. Why was that difficult to say?
Bubba.
My left rotator cuff, sorry, I messed it up in my car accident, and it's just never been the same. So like this side is now not like as strong. So I'll just go with left hand because I'm a designer, and so my right hand can do more tedious stuff.
Important. Do you use your right hand to mouse?
I use both. Like, this is where it's really hard, and I think about this like as a designer. I don't want to lose either of my hands. Because, well, I do graphic design, which is all on the computer, right? So I use both hands. Like, I use them for doing shortcuts and, you know.
I just realized just how morbid this topic is about 3 amputees that were already missing limbs at birth. And then, like, oh, what? If you had to choose one other limb that you would also lose, like, what would that be?
Leave it to meet us.
Great, it's great. I love it. Like that, no one's ever heard that question answered. This is where you get.
I've been asked this question before. You've never been asked this question before?
No.
No, I only recently. Oh. Well, maybe. No, the question that I've been taught, because with other amputees, it's always like, would you choose, if you had a choice, you had to be an amputee, and you had all 4 limbs, what limb or what would you choose, hand or leg? And obviously, the answer is leg, because what if you had to choose one limb, what limb would you choose? And you choose a leg. I would choose a leg. Say I had all my limbs, if I had 2 hands fully, I would definitely choose a leg. I would, below the knee, if I had a choice. If it was to be above the knee, I don't know, man.
Give me your face.
I might take an arm off. You wouldn't take 2 hands over one leg?
No, definitely not. No.
You would want to take an arm?
My stump. I hate my stump. I dislike it immensely because it doesn't help. It causes me a lot of pain. There's other issues there. Oh. So I would change my stump for sure, but I would not choose to be a leg amputee over an arm amputee. I think it's better to be an arm amputee, for sure. I think it would be too hard to be a leg amputee. For sure.
Really?
What specifically, Jamie, makes you, like, you're pretty, like, confident in that choice? Like,
if I have to pee in the middle of the night.
Oh.
You know?
It's a con. It's a con.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You just need to get a toilet right beside your bed.
You can, but then you have to, like...
No, thanks. I'm on my feet a lot. Like, I do a lot of walking. The only thing I would change is my stump. Because...
No stump changes.
Stump changes allowed.
No stump changes.
That's not part of the rules to a game that you've done.
That is against the rules.
Yeah, it's Jamie's
no stump changes. You have to take the limb you've lost with the same stump you have now.
No,
I'm kidding,
I don't.
Obviously.
Yeah, I would.
Tell the people why.
So I have arthritis in a joint that I shouldn't have in my stump.
Yeah.
And so...
Like a phantom arthritis?
No, an actual arthritis.
No. What?
Yeah, but you said you have arthritis in your limb that...
In your stump.
In your stump.
In my stump.
Okay. I just heard you wrong.
In the
of course you
in
did.
the remaining part of the limb that is there.
That was supposed to be there?
No, in a joint that is kind of part of the full arm, but the way that my arm grew or didn't grow, however you want to word it, that joint exists in a way that is painful. So
Which is a reality for amputees, for many amputees, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that joint moves, and I have arthritis in it. And so I have a choice between, I've taken one shot and it was uncomfortable, and the other option that I have is to fuse the joint. But that's gonna mean like a while of healing, which means like a change in how I live my life for a bit. So I've been putting it off. Procrastination. And so yeah.
I don't see that.
I'm the very best at that.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'd give James a trophy for it.
I already have one. Look at all my certificates.
That one's specific.
They're all procrastination tickets.
I believe it.
Procrastination tickets.
Mm-hmm. The most accurate thing James has ever said.
Hey, you guys.
I'm kidding.
You're always on the ball. Always, for everything.
James, what I recall of you every seminar we were at was how punctual you were not. Specifically. Choose what amputee I'd be. Can I just be a leg amputee, but can it be a below knee amputee and I get a hip joint?
No, if I'm allowed to not choose, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
of course.
I think it's like, and for me, I think I'm comfortable. I know it already. So in my head, it's a lot easier. I will say, like, yeah, sometimes it's annoying and difficult because basically you walk everywhere. And so you're very dependent on your artificial limb, or, you know, like if you're in pain, you kind of have to just push through it. And you don't really have a choice if you want to go get stuff done. But I'm going to say, like, if I had a hip joint and a knee, I feel like, hot damn, I'd be flying. I'd run everywhere. I'd run the fucking everywhere. Like, I would never walk. Probably. Maybe. I'll see.
I think you might.
I'll see if it's a possibility.
I think you might get tired after a little bit. As someone that has two legs, I can't even do that, so.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like...
It was just like this, the thought of having those joints.
It would be my adrenaline kicking
just kicking in all the time.
Yeah. But just like momentarily.
You'd be like, yeah, joints, yeah!
Yeah! I can't even fathom what it would be like to have a knee. Just watching people be able to like bend their knee with an artificial leg, like I'm always like, whoa, I'm a little jealous. But whatever, it is what it is. I'm a miracle person, so instead I get to be that cool person though when I go to doctor's appointments and I go to a teaching hospital. Everybody comes in, like all the interns, as if I'm like a unicorn, and they're like, oh, I've only read about you in a textbook, and they just want to ask me questions, and it's actually really, really cool and neat experience because people just literally want to learn about you and learn so that way they can improve knowledge and help other people down the road. And I think like that part's really unique. I don't know if that's just the perspective I've chosen to kind of take of it, but it is kind of cool to always be, you know, like feel like a unicorn when you go into those places. So yeah.
And I've had that too, because I'm also a type 1 diabetic, right? So being an arm amputee and a type 1 diabetic, like that's not really common, right? So it's very interesting. Like even when I was learning to use my insulin pump, you know, I had to kind of like figure out a way how to load it. I had to figure out a way how to like do all of that stuff.
Right.
And then after I had figured it all out, the pump company actually called me and was like, hey, we have someone else who doesn't have the use of one of their arms or one of their hands. Like, could you teach them how you load your insulin pump, how you like put in a new set,
that's
like,
awesome.
and all that kind of stuff. And so that was really interesting, kind of having that too. And the same thing when I go to my doctor's appointments, specifically when it comes to like my diabetes stuff, they always have everyone around, like, kind of like learning from me in a way, because realistically, technology has helped me in my life, specifically because I'm missing my arm. So it helped me even more so than a lot of other amputees, because I'm missing my arm and because I have limitations when it comes to a lot of diabetic stuff. So again, like, that's been really interesting too, to be like, someone that like is teaching others about it and all that kind of stuff. So I prefer to see it that way too. So
of course, that's how people learn, man. That's awesome. That's like you pass on the knowledge.
We can all attest very heavily to the fact of like having each other and having a community is essential to who we are as people. Like, it's shaped us. Like, if I didn't have the community or you two, and I just, like, I had an amazing family and friends and community locally, but I do still think it would have been so different not having
other amputees.
Even
if they're not leg amputees.
100%.
Because we're never like, oh, you have this, we're different, but we're still the same, kind of, almost, right? Like, it's like
there's an unspoken bond.
That's what it is. I can't help you really with any of your leg stuff, other than the fact, like, yeah, maybe I worked with amputees and I know a lot of leg amputees, like, but any other amputee that maybe didn't have that knowledge that I do, or I should say do, not did, be able to pass, would it's just, like I said, it's just like a bond, right? Like you said.
Yeah.
It's like an unspoken bond.
I feel like I have a very core memory of when we were, oh my God, I don't remember our exact age, but I do remember we were teenagers. And I want to say it was, James, when you and I basically became good friends rather than like acquaintances. And I remember someone saying to us specifically, how long have you two known each other? How long have you two been friends? And we looked at each other and I was like 15 minutes. Because I actually think we were talking for like 15 minutes, and it was like the first time we were in like a room together having like a friendship, not just like counseling sessions or something. And like we both started laughing because we were like, how instant of a connection just it was to be with another amputee that, like, we obviously have a lot of other similarities, and so that helped as well. But I always remembered very specifically being like, you don't need to share like your feelings or anything, and yet just being in the presence of somebody who relates, instantly that you share each other's emotions and like share each other's experiences. And so therefore you don't have to explain, and there becomes a level of like comfortability, if that's a word. Like you've it's almost like you've opened up and shed like all these deep emotions to a stranger, but you haven't. And if that makes any sense at all, I don't know if I'm just like
it does.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that
somebody.
It's a strange phenomenon. Like it's like the weirdest connection. Like it's so weird how connected you feel with other amputees, and it's because like day to day, and like it's not all sunshine and roses. Like it can be a struggle, man. And when you see someone else that has the same, you can shed that like anxiety you have about how someone's feeling or having to explain it, or like even though you're fully wanting to explain it and stuff, but it's just like, yeah, it's a crazy thing. Like it's something that it's hard to explain and to put into words, like the bond that you share with someone. That I guess that's like someone who had been in an accident or something, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of examples of where this, other people who would have this, who are not amputees, like who feel the same thing. It's like if someone else has like the same disease they do or whatever, right?
Trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding.
Yeah.
It would be the same thing, right? If they've gone through the same thing together.
Trauma bond. Yeah, I never heard that terminology.
Jamie and I have a trauma bond as well.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. So I'd say that was actually a huge reason of accidentally, not on purpose, but I do think the universe kind of aligned us back together as adults. Is a very interesting time, and I see it all so clearly in hindsight, and just like right down to like the timing of our mom's passing, and like it's
everything.
It's creepy is what I'll say, but
extremely creepy.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I'm glad you guys reconnected after all those years, because I remember, Jamie, you told me like, oh yeah, like I was talking to Amanda and I went down to see her. I was like, what? You went down to see Amanda? Like, I was jealous, man. I was
She's
like,
visited me 3 times. She's wild, this one.
I thought I was your friend, man, and now I feel like
yes. Come on,
I'm not your friend, man. I'm not.
Step it up. No, it's a long journey. We do not live close together, so you're always welcome.
Well, something our audience may or may not know. Have we explained how we all know each other? Like, we grew up going to events together, so we've all known each other.
Yeah, I don't think we have really explained that.
We haven't talked too much about it, but that's what kind of also makes this podcast interesting. Not only that we're amputees, and a lot of us, me and Jamie at least, we worked with amputees and their families most of their lives, but we also grew up in like a close,
not like community, not a physical community, but like a
and able to see each other, like at least at these big events every year, and like they're so important. They're so important for anyone who's going through any sort of trauma. Not that we were going through trauma. Some people, some kids that came into the program are going through trauma, obviously, and their families and their parents. Then there's people who were born with it. There's all different types of trauma, but yeah, it's just we all grew up together, and
but that connection was, kind of unspeakable, right?
And it's always wild to me when I think about how many days I've actually spent with both of you. Is not a large amount of numbers, because I was maybe seeing you for 3 or 4 days, max a year. That was it. And like, if I was lucky, I got to go every year. Sometimes, right? Like, there were sometimes I didn't get to and I skipped, and then you guys don't go to that one because you skip or something that year, or whatever the case may be. Or they had 2, I think, like in Ontario, sometimes they might have had 2 at one point, and like so and to think though, like when you guys left, like when I don't know how you guys dealt with leaving those seminars, but oh my God, my poor mom. Well, I was like a puddle.
I felt great. Like, I felt like I could take the world on, but I was sad. I was so sad. It's like, well, it's gonna be another long time before I can see like all my friends again, right?
Like the first like 24 to 48 hours, I definitely felt like the sadness, I think I made James cry a few times on those last few hours of goodbyes. If my memory.
I really tried not to cry.
I know you did, but with like me and Pam, do you remember how much we cry?
Yeah.
I cry over everything. I cry over the most ridiculous things. So, like,
there's always so much crying at the end.
Yeah, and it makes sense, though. Like, that's a place where it's like, it makes sense. You understand the weekend's coming to an end. And, like, I don't know. And to me, it makes sense that you're crying there. I cry at other really ridiculous times that I am so well aware while I'm crying. I'm like, I'm almost embarrassed I'm crying right now. Do you want to know one? I'll tell you, like, the one that pops in my mind is, like, the most embarrassing cry moment that I try to, like, hide all the time. And I'm like, I don't understand what is wrong with me. You won't guess. You will never guess this ever. No one will.
No, I won't guess.
When I watch when I watch a hockey game at the very start when they sing the national anthem, why am I crying? Someone explain to me. I have to mute it. Like I can't listen to it. I'll get emotional and I'm like, why though? Like someone that's a deep issue that I don't understand because I'm just like, what? This isn't a moment that I understand what's happening to me.
Because you're like patriotic. I feel the same thing. It's intense when you listen to the.
Is it because of like the organization we were a part of and like we understand it on a different level? Like no, you guys know, no one else is crying. It's just me.
No.
Not a national anthem though.
I don't know, man. I'm still trying to understand it. I've just let it my deep dark secret to everybody. So you're welcome.
It might have something to do with the fact that you've definitely had use, and we've definitely had use of the benefits of living in Canada. So like health related and things like that, right? So we believe in the benefits of it, and maybe that's why.
Yeah,
Is that maybe too far? I have no idea. But
no, I feel like it's something like that, but that I don't understand. Because every time I try to figure it out, I don't actually like. I'm like, yeah, that emotionally isn't making me cry or feel like, oh yeah, that's it right there. But like every time it happens, I'm always like, this is like the most weirdest, embarrassing thing to me. I just have to like disassociate or something.
I feel emotion when I hear the national anthem too, not to the point of crying, depending on if I'm watching a hockey game, depending on the match.
No, okay. Thank you for having like a little bit of my back. I don't expect you to cry, but to say you have like emotion attached to it in some way, I guess is. Jamie's looking at us like we were both the biggest losers in the entire world, just an FYI.
In previous jobs that I've had, I had to sing the national anthem a lot. And so maybe.
Yeah, you are like, there's nothing there for you. I get you. I would cry if I tried to sing it, probably.
I mean, also what I do. I don't know. Maybe that's like desensitized me to.
No, probably.
It would be crying for different reasons. It would be like like when I was watching Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs, they would have this one lady who would always sing the national anthem, and it was like Lucky. And sometimes she would really belt it out, man. I could see myself, if it's an intense game, crying, like.
We've got something out of James. I'm not alone in this. There's other people.
I think there are a lot of people that get emotional.
If you are one of these people who cries, or like you have a ridiculous cry story, don't be embarrassed. Share it down below. Honestly, I just started embracing I cry at everything all the time. Like when I was a kid, I remember I cried a lot when we were watching Wheel of Fortune because someone won like $44,000, and I was like, their lives are changed, and I could not stop crying, and like my family.
Oh man, the stuff I would do with $44,000.
Yeah, as an adult, you understand. Like you would cry if someone just was like, "Here's $44,000, almost guarantee." Well, I would, but I mean, I cried when someone else got it that I didn't even know. So,
do you guys think that we're more empathetic because of the things that we've gone through because we are amputees? Do you think that we have more empathy for people? Do you think that we can feel people's pain? Like, do you think we're more empaths kind of thing?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I want to
because I definitely see that. I think as a pattern in a lot of amputees for sure. Like, I feel like we're very much empaths. We very much can feel other people's pain or understand other people's pain or even triumphs and successes.
even a coworker of mine was sharing an experience about stitches healing. And as she was explaining it, I actually was getting like phantom itchies and like pains and like like going back to when I had surgery and like whatever, too much information overshare, but I had like a drainage situation that I struggled with for like months during one of my recoveries, and like it was the grossest feeling of just like something constantly draining, and I had like a pinhole that it would drain like the inflammation out of. And literally, like when people talk about it, I feel it all over again in that one spot, to the point where I have to like touch it. Like I have to touch and be like, is it wet there? It's not wet there. Like my brain, it literally, when anyone talks about surgery, I'm like, "Ugh," like I cringe. Like I feel the stabbing pains or like the healing pains, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I don't love it, but on the flip side, I do think having empathy for people is a beautiful gift to have. It really does help you navigate in life to understand like every single person's going through something. Like, you know, we're not really special in the sense of like you're the only one going through something big. Like I think if anything, I've learned that just everyone's got something going on, and we all have to some degree a hardship or an insecurity, and it makes it so you can relate to each other. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I feel like when you were saying like you cry at everything, I cry at everything for sure, 100%. So it's like everything.
But you know what I don't cry to?
What?
That like, well, that's not true. That's not
She's
fully true. I watch a lot of true crime.
Oh,
Jamie,
that's true. I don't cry when I'm watching true crime
dude.
either.
Oh my god, I've heard the most horrific things. I'm into
Jamie,
that.
James cries to those. I cry at hockey game, national anthems, but can watch true crime.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, me too.
You can watch people being like brutally fucking dismantled.
Yes.
And but
yes,
the national anthem gets you, right?
I mean, not me, but Amanda, yeah.
You know.
Listen, I've talked to my therapist about this. And actually, I don't think I've talked to my therapist.
And they say it's okay.
But next week, I will be talking to my therapist about this.
Well, it's been such a great conversation today, talking about, would you rather, what limb you would rather be missing if you were an amputee, or the difference between, being a leg and an arm amputee, or losing it as a kid or an adult.
Also, if others that are watching this have made it this far into the video, God bless your soul. Comment down below on what, if you're missing one, what are you missing? What you would prefer? Like, we would like to hear like your opinions and comments to weigh down below, and just see like your viewpoints on everything we kind of discussed today. Especially, I'm interested in the whole like left side versus right side, and whether we believe like that has affected people's like dominancy on which they use. So I'd love to hear what
absolutely. Like that's where we're gonna figure out what most people are like thinking, right? So
well, and also, how did you figure out your left from your right? Did you have to use the method where you held up the L to figure out which one was the proper direction, or were you able to figure it out a different way? Because for us, it was just, we know which limb we're missing, and so that's that side kind of thing, and then the opposite has to be the opposite. So,
well, thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure that you hit subscribe, like, Hit the bell so you get notifications for our upcoming videos. Comment down below, all that fun jazz. We appreciate you all. Outside of that, peace. Love you all.
Peace and love.